Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Savitri is the Message, with our beloved Alok. We are now at the very end of our theme, Savitri is the Message, and we are in Canto 4 of Book 10, the Book of the Double Twilight. And I'm going to read from page 658. It's quite long. It's about a 6-minute read. But it will tell us some very beautiful things about the plan of the divine.
And how it works itself out. So relevant.
Very relevant to today.
When people just look at the appearances and they draw conclusions, not knowing that there is a hidden intelligence at work which uses everything for its great purpose. So,
in the casual era of the world's ignorance, a plan, a hidden intelligence is glimpsed. There is a purpose in each stumble and fall. Nature's most careless lolling is a pose preparing some forward step, some deep result. Ingenious notes plugged into a motive score, these million discords dot the harmonious theme of the evolution's huge orchestral dance. A truth supreme has forced the world to be. It has wrapped itself in matter as in a shroud of death, a shroud of ignorance. It compelled the suns to burn through silent space, flame signs of its uncomprehended thought in a wide brooding ether's formless muse. It made of knowledge a veiled and struggling light, of being a substance nescient, dense, and dumb, of bliss, the beauty of an insentient world. In finite things, the conscious infinite dwells. Involved, it sleeps in matter's helpless trance. It rules the world from its sleeping, senseless void. Dreaming, it throws out mind and heart and soul to labor crippled, bound on the hard earth. A broken whole, it works through scattered points. Its gleaming shards are wisdom's diamond thoughts. Its shadowy reflex, our ignorance. It starts from the mute mass in countless jets. It fashions a being out of brain and nerve, a sentient creature from its pleasures and pangs. A pack of feelings obscure, a dot of sense, survives a while, answering the shocks of life, then, crushed or its force spent, leaves the dead form, leaves the huge universe in which it lived, an insignificant, unconsidered guest. But the soul grows concealed within its house. It gives to the body its strength and magnificence. It follows aims in an ignorant, aimless world. It lends significance to Earth's meaningless life. A demigod animal came thinking man. He wallows in mud, yet heavenward soars in thought. He plays and ponders, laughs and weeps and dreams, satisfies his little longings like the beast. He pores upon life's book with student eyes. Out of this tangle of intellect and sense, out of the narrow scope of finite thought, at last he wakes into spiritual mind, A high liberty begins, and luminous room. He glimpses eternity, touches the infinite. He meets the gods in great and sudden hours. He feels the universe as his larger self, makes space and time his opportunity to join the heights and depths of being in light. In the heart's cave, speaks secretly with God. But these are touches and high moments lived. Fragments of truth supreme have lit his soul, reflections of the sun in water still. A few have dared the last supreme ascent and break through borders of blinding light above and feel a breath around of mightier air, receive a vaster being's messages, and bathe in its immense intuitive ray.
This is a whole story of evolution sketched out by Savitri in response to death's last cry. So, what really is the vision of death is a vision of the blind who looks at the surface appearances and says there is no God, there is no meaning, there is no purpose, and looks at life as a series of random events, as accidents, chance, conflict, discord, and doesn't know if there is anything at all which is going on behind. So, there are two kinds of approaches people have taken till now. One is the rationalist approach, and they declare that, either there is no God, or if there is one, he is a witness, that's it. He has nothing to do with the world, because world
he's
is
impotent.
impotent. It's a contradiction of whatever we understand of the divine. This is an approach people have taken, and death seems to concede to that. Says, okay, there is a God, he is impersonal, a witness. Or the other approach is, they say God is there, he is perfect and he has created things, but man has gone stray. And because he has gone stray, there is a law of karma chasing him like a snake behind his feet. And so what to do? He is running here and there, more and more chaos and confusion. So he has made a good world, but man has spoilt it by his actions.
And this is the idea and the context behind Western religion.
Yes. Even in Indian thought, there are spots where we see it's explained in the basis of karma. So, God created this world and very beautiful, but man came on the stage and his karmas created more and more evil. He was given a choice. So, this thought, but both are inadequate. It's very evident that they both are inadequate. So, Sri Aurobindo comes with it. I would not even use the word cosmic thought because the term is used here. Transcendent thought, something which gives us a true understanding. And that's where you started reading from. It said Savitri's answer to death. And
You can go even a few
page
sentences.
655, where he uses a line, death says, but here are only facts and steel bound law. This is what is the truth of worldly life. Other worlds, I am not bothered. You can be with Satyavan in another world, somewhere else. But this realm, there is no way that things can change. And then Savitri starts with a very interesting line. O death, thou too art God and yet not he. This is one of the most profound truths, right? The Gitas, that everything is God. Everything is serving a purpose in God's plan. And yet God is greater than all of these together. So this, he starts by saying, you have your place in the cosmic scheme. You too are God. And yet not he. This is a mistake that we make, that we are all given a place in the cosmic scheme. But the moment we think that I am the center and I am everything, that's where the problem starts. All conflicts start with that, And then
it's basically the ego.
Yeah, basically the ego. Now look at few lines below, something very beautiful. This passage on page 656. These wide divine extremes, that wide divine extremes are the luminous pole above and the dark pole below, the Devic and the Asuric, the heavenly world of the gods and the worlds of the Titan. They are seen as opposites, but they are not opposites. They are complementaries needed for the evolutionary scheme. Look at it.
And even in the overmind, they're not antagonistic.
Yes. So here he says, these wide divine extremes, these inverse powers. He's using the word not opposite, inverse. They are this side and that side of the one. They are inverse powers. They still belong to the one. Are the right and left side of the body of God. Existence balanced twixt two mighty arms confronts the mind with unsolved abysms of thought. Darkness below, a fathomless light above. So these are the powers. So what happens to them? In light are joined but sundered by severing mind. The mind that creates the gulf, the division. But in the light, in the supermind, they are united. Even Mother said, even good and evil are united. So our disciple is surprised that evil also is divine and anti-divine are united, joined. Then she writes a footnote. You will see it in notes on the way. So she says, because she understood that people can't understand what truly this unity is. So she says, in the divine consciousness of unity, the supramental, which is what the whole passage is ultimately about, because now she is revealing the highest truth, the truth seen from the supramental realm. So she says that, when they are united, it means evil is no more evil because its origin owes itself to something in the infinite. But there it's not evil. And good is no more good as we understand here, even that undergoes a transmutation. And in that unity, they are all in their right place, doing their function well.
But only in the supermind.
Only in the supermind. The moment they come down, the mind starts severing them, creates gulfs, opposition. But that was necessary. And I take it like this, that if you have to build something, typical mental way of building is, you have different things being assembled different places. Then you bring them together and piece it. So where do you find the truth? One is in the original plan. The architect or whoever, draws the plan. There the plan is there. That's the supermind. The second is when the end is over. The supermind which is pressing itself to express through the building. At the end you say, okay, now this is manifest, that is unmanifest. So these are the two poles. In the supermind you have the original plan of unity. And at the end, which is the supramental creation, new creation, then again you will have the same unity. But in between there are what we call as errors, mistakes, challenges, adventures. But each of this event and circumstance in the challenge, the adventure is also part of the grand plan. This is what she will reveal, and it comes on the next page, which is what you were reading.
Yes.
Yet, page 658, yet in the exact inconscience star conceit. Oh, this, I'll just read a few lines. I'll just go back on the previous page. There is something very beautiful. His being, he is both in one, beginningless without end. His being is a mystery beyond mind. His ways bewilder mortal ignorance. Why we cannot understand God? Because the finite, in its little sections parked, amazed, credits not God's audacity. In the finite, he pours the infinite. Each finite is a house of the infinite. What an audacious work. In an atom is hidden all the infinite power and energy. Everywhere, in every atom of existence. But man can awaken it. That's the difference. Audacity, look at the term. Who dares to be the unimagined all and see and act as might one infinite. An infinite can afford to become weak because he's so sure of himself. He knows that whatever you may do, like that story of Krishna.
It's his play.
It's his play. He is going to. The more unsure we are, the more insecure we are, the more we feel threatened and try to, But one who is strong, truly strong, knows that, well, this is the one which is a play. So, and a play with a purpose. Now, see this something very interesting. Against human reason, this is his offense. God has committed an offense. See, we were waiting for it. What is the offense? Against human reason, this is his offense. Being known to be forever unknowable. Why known? He is the most intimate. There is nothing else but him. Being known to be forever unknowable. To be all and yet transcend the mystic whole. Absolute. To lodge in a relative world of time. Eternal and all-knowing. To suffer birth. Omnipotent. To sport with chance and fate. Come, let's play the game of games. Omnipotent, what game you can play? You are going to be, You say, okay, I'll veil my omnipotence in a shroud of ignorance.
And he says to sport with, to play with.
Play with chance and fate. Try whatever you may. Look at the marvel of the God's omnipotence revealed in a way which we cannot imagine. It's not just a magical doing this, that, but working itself through all the sheets of ignorance, because that's what is going to be. Spirit, yet to be matter and the void. Spirit has become matter. Illimitable beyond form or name. To dwell within a body. One and supreme. And then yes, this is the line. To be animal and human and divine. This is one of the marvels of Indian thought which Sri Aurobindo is bringing out. God is not just up above in the skies. He takes the body of animal, matter, man, all these are his vast bodies.
And in the worm foresees the coming God.
The only difference is animal cannot realize this truth. Man can, if he wishes. This is the main thing. And it doesn't end there. A still deep sea, he laughs in rolling waves. It gives us a new vision of the sea. And laughs in rolling waves. Universal, he is all, transcendent, none. But he has to be convicted for his crime, because against his man's offense. To man's righteousness, this is his cosmic crime. Look at the humor, satire, irony.
Yes.
People often, at some place, Sri Aurobindo said, if you take that, destroying is evil, then God will be the first person you will convict. Because in this world, all things are born and they perish. So that wide vision that we have to have. But man is righteous. So he gives to whatever is being destroyed and whatever is the instrument of destruction, he gives the name evil. That's what in the Gita Sri Aurobindo reveals in the beginning. That in Indian thought, however, even Kali is the mother. Rudra is also the Lord. Even behind destruction, there is ultimately that same force. But otherwise, we cut into two parts. We see only God as very nice sadhu bacha sitting up there, just quietly, and the same sadhu bacha smiling, playing the flute, cowherd's boy. When he takes Sudarshan Chakra, we don't know what's happened to him. And when Arjuna asks him, "Who are you?" I know you so well, but now I am afraid of you. He says that, I am afraid looking at you. I am your friend, but my first the fear was of the army committing sin. Now he is afraid of the great Godhead. He says, who are you? My body is shivering looking at you. Arjuna asks Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna's answer, he says, I am Kal, the destroyer, time the destroyer. Then he says, sir, this is too much for me to comprehend in 1 hour. Please show me your gracious form. Come as Vishnu, nice with Lakshmi ji by his side, smiling. That is good. Just imagine, nobody can associate Krishna as time the destroyer. But this is the beauty and might which I keep reminding of, yes, the Indian thought, which has seen even in destruction, the play of the divine. So that's what, against man's righteousness. To man's righteousness, this is his cosmic crime. Almighty, beyond good and evil to dwell, leaving the good to their fate in a wicked world. A criminal, he should be charged for crime. But why does he do so? To understand this mystery, I was going to say, please hear Krishna's play. The Leela of Sri Krishna. This ego scales have to drop off. We are attached to ideas, opinions, viewpoints, mind. You cannot understand God's play. To eyes, an aimless, all opposition seems and strife and chance, an aimless labor with but scanty sense. To eyes that see a part and miss the whole. This is our problem. We have a narrow glaucoma vision, so we see literally very little. At the same time, we see in small section of time, we don't see through large spaces of time. See, people who would have seen the war of Kurukshetra, they must have thought, they cursed Krishna. Some of them said, because of you, this situation is there. They didn't know that he was saving India through that war. So there are things which are beyond appalling to our senses, and we should just stay quiet and see how these things work. And here he goes on, the surface men scan, the depths refuse their search. A hybrid mystery challenges the view. Hybrid, where good and evil are mixed together. Or a discouraging, sordid miracle. Yes, this world is miracle, you can't deny it. Out of atom you build this, but it's a sordid miracle, discouraging. And then comes this line, yet in the exact inconscience, stark conceit. What is the conceit? Out of nothingness, world of forms and names is emerging. What happens? Because atoms, how they build form? This is a great mystery, incidentally, in science. There are 2-3 real amazing mysteries. One is, how is form built? Second, how is form perceived? That's another mystery. How do we perceive form? Because we don't know actually, but it's so real to touch, to everything. But at another level, if you go by quantum understanding, there is no form. How is form built? So then we can end up saying that there is a habitual association of the atomic movement with our senses, and habitual association. But it's workable, it's not just habitual. You hit against the table. It's not just a mental thing, it's so real, and yet it's so unreal. So in stark conceit, in the casual error of the world's ignorance, a plan, a hidden intelligence is glimpsed. That's what we should try to find out. What is that hidden intelligence working behind things? And what is this? What is this intelligence does? There is a purpose in each stumble and fall. You know that story when in the jail, when Sri Krishna appears to Sri Aurobindo. Now there is a council who is going to speak things, and Sri Krishna gives Sri Aurobindo the counsel, first counsel. He says, I have taken your charge. I mean, not exactly these words. And he says, in all ways, whatever men do, they will end up doing my will. I am the understanding of the wise. And then he sees, Sri Aurobindo sees, he is there in the judge. He is there not only in the lawyer who is fighting his case, but the lawyer who is opposing.
And the prisoners?
Everybody.
Everyone.
So then the mind is freed from ignorance to see the divine and his varied manifestations. So this, to start with, people who are very caustic with you, bitter, see in them also some manifestation of God. Kali or Durga
or see in them one of your problems.
One of our problems or the cosmic problem, who knows. So this is how. So a plan, a hidden intelligence is glimpsed. There is a purpose in each stumble and fall. Nature's most careless lolling is a pose. Looks like nothing is really happening. Nothing is really happening. World is wonderful. Stock exchange is climbing up. Petrol prices are going down. Careless lolling. Everybody is very happy. And then lolling is a pose. Next moment there is a leap and everything changes, tumbles down. Crash. Everything is shaken out from its cool comfort market zones. All your ideals, all the things that you profess. Preparing some forward step, some deep result.
I'd like to talk a little about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next few
This. I
lines
wanted. Yeah, yeah. Please, ingenious notes.
as a musician. Ingenious notes are plugged into a motive score. Now, a motif is a basic plan, a basic musical idea. And these million discords dot the harmonious theme. So we have a motive score, ingenious notes, orchestral dance, all of these musical things that are so beautiful, and he's telling us so much more than what
Yeah,
those
yeah.
lines are in there. So,
So there are these, in Indian music they speak about new ragas, how they come. So what he has described is ingenious notes which an expert musician does. And it creates something new. And in biology, there are several examples in biology because he's speaking about evolution. If you look at one of the weirdest creature, who is extinct now, of course, is Archaeopteryx. So Archaeopteryx is a snake with wings. Wings, little chinna wings. So what had happened? Birds have to be created. If suddenly snakes start flying, how dangerous it will be. So a weird creature is created who will not survive.
but the idea of winged flight is in that
is
creature.
beginning with
Yes.
that. And look at the change. Out of this creepy creature is born the wonderful skies covered with birds. So this ingenious note, it's like a discord. If somebody could picturize the world and saw this Archaeopteryx fellow flying, say, what kind of world this is? Who created such a creature? And God would have said, wait, this creature is only a prelude to a vaster theme. I'm going to fill the world with birds. So we also say, who created this funny creature called man? Half animal, half human, whatever left is divine. So is what kind of creature? Of all the creatures upon earth, the most complicated, the most least sorted is man. Doesn't even know what he is carrying, doesn't know what he is meant to do. Yet he wants to know everything. That's the interesting part. That's what would Sri Aurobindo says, wait, man is a transitional being. It doesn't matter. What we should be attached to is not man, but the God's plan that through man, evolution is going to ascend to the Superman.
And the Superman will be as different from man as man
from the
is
animal.
to the animal.
This is the logic of creation. What a strange creature, man. Somebody wrote very interestingly that we are trying to find life in other planets while we are happily destroying lives on our planet. But that's what man is. He is meant to eventually be superseded towards something else. And that's where the hope lies. Hope is not with man. Man is like a matrix for something else to come up. He is like the foundation which has been laid for something much greater, for the ascent of consciousness. And that's what he will reveal. A truth supreme has forced the world to be. It has wrapped itself in matter as in a shroud of death, a shroud of ignorance. So one of the truths is that even in this ignorance and inconscient, the supermind is hidden. Truth supreme. That's what the Vedas say, that there are three places where you find Agni. So there is the original solar fire, the supramental truth. Saur Agni. At a material level, it presents itself as solar panels, but that Saur Agni is the supramental truth. Another is right in the base, in matter, as Jada Agni. So Jada Agni is where it can blow up a world, Jada Agni, nuclear power. Saur Agni, Jada Agni. And in the mind and mid-worlds, it is found as Vidvat Agni. The lightning flashes that cleave through the brain. The intuitive flashes you see in an animal that leaps by instinct. This is the middle So all these, ultimately, that's the Agni, that's why the Agni has built the creation, the worlds in that sense. So a truth supreme, it is hiding here. So he's not just above, he's also below. Supermind is also within creation, within matter in its depth. And that's why from both sides mankind is being pressed. This is emerging. So the surface is becoming, man is losing that order which was created by the mind. At the same time, there is a pressure from above. So both these things, a truth supreme, it compelled the suns to burn through silent space. Evidence. Look, this truth supreme has compelled the suns. Now he's talking of the material and several layers of universe. Look at the order and beauty in the randomness of this universe. Flame signs of an uncomprehended thought in a wide brooding ether's formless muse. What a line this is. Ether, brooding ether. Tapas, 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 all concentrated energy. Brooding in space, and suddenly it sprinkles something. Energy packet, or call it whatever. And it dances and spins, and you have such wonderful, if you look at those signs, zodiac signs, the arrangement of stars, it's amazing how they look like such living creatures. And we call it all random event. Means it's, you can call it, but look at the marvel. Look at the rose, the way it is, the way each petal around a center, and they are not exact. If we have to conceive it, we would make it like in a symmetry, but it breaks the symmetry and creates the symmetry simultaneously by a single act. Every petal breaks and creates at the same time and ultimately enriches. So it's a package. So it's something so beautiful. It made of knowledge a veiled and struggling light, of being a substance, nescient, dense and dumb, of bliss, the beauty of an insentient world. That's why in this world, material world, when we look at mountains, insentient, rivers, we feel the sense of joy. Bliss has become the beauty, insentient beauty in the material world. Then we have to recover it at the ultimate beatitudes. In finite things, the conscious infinite dwells. See, this is line from Kathopanishad. And how beautifully Shobindo puts it. In Kathopanishad, there is a line, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman Tamatmastham Yenu Pashyanti Dhira Stesham Sukham Shashwati Netaresham. Nitya Nityanam. We talk of transient and the permanent. Nitya is eternal. And Anitya is that which is transient, temporary. But in this verse, it is said that within the transient and temporary, the permanent is present. Nityo Nityanam. Chetanas Chetananam. Unconscious things. Within that, a consciousness is present. Chetanas Chetananam. Eko Bahunam. The one became the many. Eko Bahunam. Jo Vidatadika. Why? Because he wanted to become many. And the Dhira who can see this, Tamatmastham Yenu Pashyanti Dhira, he is forever at peace and in a state of Sukham. Because he knows this. It's his play, staged by him, with himself as the veiled actor, and himself the director, the storyteller, and himself the musical score and the grand theme.
He is the maker.
And
the world he made.
Yes. Dharas Bitu, Nayan Bitu. It involved, it sleeps in matters, helpless trance. Who is sleeping there? God. This is, people often say, what is this? Many gods are worshipped, again in the Indian context. Yes, because he dwells in all things. Pick up a stone. In India, it's very common. We have grown up like that. In my house, there was one stone. If you look at it purely, people will call it idolatry. There was a stone. All that it had, it was a mark of, what is it called? Sacred thread around the stone. There are stones like that created by nature. And they are called in India as Shaligram. So they are representative of Vishnu. So in our house there was a plant of Tulsi, and in the Tulsi the Shaligram was placed and he was worshipped as Vishnu. And Tulsi was regarded as sacred because they have to be together. There is a whole story associated with that. So in that stone, every day, we used to put water, do pranam. It's like there is the divine dwells. So that's how it is. In matter, he dwells.
One time I was cutting the dead branches of the service tree over the samadhi to make incense holders. And I made one cut, and inside was Agni.
Yes.
What an experience. The flame was just perfect.
Yeah. So this is the... So then it goes on, and then he says how, evolution takes place. And through all these seemingly significant, insignificant events, there is someone inside who is growing through all this. That's the beauty of the play. We look at the surface, but what's happening is what is going on within. And through all these seemingly random events, casual circumstances, stumble, fall, everything, there is a fellow who is waking up. And that he describes. Initially it is an insignificant, unconsidered guest. Oh, there is a soul, I don't know, we have heard about it, written in scriptures. Insignificant. Why? Because we believe it has no role. He is the king, hidden. That's how Sri Aurobindo describes the king hidden behind rich tapestries. So, unconsidered and insignificant, unconsidered. Is it there, not there? How does it matter? Our life, we should. Guest. Looks like a guest. He is the fellow. Ish. He is the master of the house.
He owns it.
He owns it. And we call him the guest. But the soul grows concealed within its house. Nobody is seeing that this little fellow, Krishna, is growing. Suddenly the jail is empty. He is growing elsewhere. People are wondering, is it the fellow who is meant to overthrow Kansa? But he is growing. It gives to the body its strength and magnificence. Inside out. It gives to the body, it's a line, it's a truth. A strong body. That's why in Indian thought, this thing was there, that bal you can get by physical exercises. But Shakti, it comes from the soul. You can become a Veer by learning the art of this thing. But Shaurya comes from the soul. You can become a skilled archer, but you cannot become sure Veer. Shaurya is born from the soul because it knows it doesn't die. Only a person who is fearless, who knows he doesn't die, can take the challenge even of death in its face. So that's what it gives to the body, its strength and magnificence. It follows aims in an ignorant, aimless world. So he's not saying this world is aimless, but he's saying it looks to the ignorant eyes, it's an aimless world. It lends significance to earth's meaningless life. Where we have to go, which way, the soul has the original blueprint. It knows. A demigod animal came thinking man. So now the entire evolutionary process, wonderful hope. A demigod animal came thinking man. This demigod animal is human beings. Animal body, and yet within us the demigod. Demigod animal. At one place he describes human beings as a cross between the demigod and the beast. A cross between the demigod and the beast. Because something in us has come from the heights, the soul within, and the rest is made from the evolutionary process from animal. So we carry both. A strange antinomy is his nature's rule. Freedom he asks, but needs to live in bonds. Seeing himself, he thinks it other than he. You are my soul. If the soul comes and says, I am your soul. Oh my God, dangerous. Soul is booth. That's how we understand. Soul, my soul. So he meeting himself, he thinks it other than he. So here comes man. He plays and ponders, laughs. He wallows in mud, yet heavenward soars in thought. Human nature, because it has both. He plays and ponders, laughs and weeps and dreams, satisfies his little longings like the beast. He pores upon life's book with student eyes. Out of this tangle of intellect and sense, master lines. All this he has described, man is doing, pouring like a student, laughing, weeping, everything. And then he says, tangle of intellect and sense. All that senses are giving to the intellect, outward gazing intellect, it is picking up as something real and true, trying to make sense out of it. But the data is wrong. That's why when Mother was asked, how does the yogi look at a world? Does he have the knowledge of the world? He says, yes, but that's not knowledge what you are having. Because your basic data is false. So meaning thereby, can a yogi know that which virus has attacked a particular individual? The yogi will say, there is but no virus. It's your error of perception. It's a vibration. So you will say you are wrong. But actually that is the true vision. It is the intellect and the senses which have conjured for you a reality which serves a practical purpose momentarily. But it's not real. That's the big difference. The outward gazing intellect, the scientific minded says, people who take to mysticism live in some dreamland. They don't deal with reality. So nowadays this is the slogan, no, be real. Yogi says, yes, this is real. Because we are no more clouded by the sense and the outward intellect. So this is the whole. So he uses this word. Out of this tangle of intellect and sense, out of the narrow scope of finite thought, at last he wakes into spiritual mind. At last he wakes up to some light. Chandrasekhara. That's the spiritual mind.
But this astrophysicist, Tyson, he says, what I can sense, what I can know with my mind is fine. But you tell me that you have seen God. How can you prove it? And this is the mind.
Not only that, it can be proven. The whole problem is that just as you have these senses and these mind, there are other senses and other mind. And corresponding to each level of mind, there are corresponding senses, and this is very easy to understand. Even from a poetic point of view. When a poet suggests that, he has experience of it, in fact, mind creates reality. When you look at let me take a very commonplace example. When you look at a television's serial, if the serial is a horror serial, now you may say something and you may say it is not real, but the mind and the senses and the body responds as if it is real. Equally, you show there an image of God, which is, obviously it's not, it's an actor. But the psychic sense wakes up and there is a psychic emotion which is felt within. Why? Because suddenly something else is seeing the same actor whom people know that he is just an actor. In India with this Ramayana and Mahabharata, this happened so much. So what we think that what does mind do? It picks up data from the senses. Now every scientist knows that the senses are limited. This is something which is well known. And the mind's ability, even with those limited senses, is even more limited because all the data that enters at any given point of time, even our senses, let's say hearing, it can pick up only sounds in the range of 20 to 20,000 hertz. So as a
the same with light.
Yeah, same with light. 7 small narrow spectrum.
Yes.
Even that limited data, the mind cannot. So what does the mind do? It focuses on just a little bit. At this point of time, in this room, there are so many different kinds of sounds which are taking birth. Just become quiet, you will listen. At the most material level. Why we don't listen? Because the mind has focused on something else. Same with the vision. So already there is limitation of the senses, limitation of the mind. It cannot handle all the data. And then on top of it, with all this data, it tries to draw a conclusion. And that mind wants to comprehend the all. Let's not use the word God, because God brings that conception of God up there who has a human form, like that. He can assume any form, that's different. So the answer to the scientist would be, since we had this question, sir, you know what? You are God. You can't see it because your eyes cannot see yourself. That is the answer.
And that's why Sri Aurobindo tells us
You
that we have
cannot
to
see
go
it.
to higher mind, an illumined mind, an
Then there
intuitive
is the
mind.
inner side which wakes up and the senses wake up. So this is where we have the spiritual mind. With a spiritual mind, you can begin to sense at least the divine presence. So here comes, also I say this, your experience is valid for you, but there are other experiences which are equally valid, Like liberal thought. So each, anyways, that's a very number of things can be said. A high liberty begins a luminous room. You enter a room of light. So it's a different vantage point from which you are seeing. He glimpses eternity, touches the infinite. How do you touch? With which hand you touch? There is a sense within which touches. See, when people go to the samadhi and say, I feel very nice. Ask them which sense you are feeling very nice. What will someone say? It's an inner sense with which we feel. Outer sense are a gross, crude densification of this inner. And it's again easy to understand children who don't have a sensory development. If supposing there is a world in which only child level of senses are there, you'll say this is truth. They don't even have the sense of perception of depth. But as you grow up, you discover, no, this is not. Depth is there. Children don't perceive, no? That's why they can fall. They develop over first 2 years of life, they develop sense perception. Same thing applies. So why you want to believe that evolution stops with man? This is the other logic, that if evolution has taken us till here, what is the logic that is going to stop? So there are many answers, but the cutest answer is, sir, you are God. What do you mean I can't see? Yes, because your eyes cannot see yourself. To see yourself inside, you have to have another effort. You have to do the effort. In science also you have to do the effort, or you take by belief. I believe that Einstein's theory is right. I believe it's everyday experience that I can touch. So people believe that the sun moves around the earth, but it was wrong. Or I can do the experiment myself. If I am capable, I'll go out of space and see actually sun moves or the earth moves. Same thing in spirituality. Either we believe, which may be a starting point, or we practice yoga and discover ourselves. These are the two ways. But if I remain in the armchair theorist with my limited faculties and I say this is truth, then it's... so that's what a high liberty... He meets the gods in great and sudden hours. How do the gods come? What forms do they have? They will take the forms that we are used to. She will come as Durga to a Hindu, as Pallas Athene to a Greek, as Mother Mary to a Christian. Their forms are very plastic, unlike our forms. So gods. Or they will not come in any form. Suddenly you are in a place and you feel a great courage. Where does that courage come from? The gods are around. They have knocked at the doors and entered there. So he meets the gods in great and sudden hours. So these are great hours when you're face to face with death, like war zone. How do people do things which seem impossible? There are gods surely at play who are inspiring. He feels the universe as his larger self, makes space and time his opportunity. As we grow into consciousness, everything is the soul's opportunity to join the heights and depths of being in light. So when we walk in darkness, it's also an opportunity to join it with the light. What profound line this is. In the heart's cave, speak secretly with God. But these are touches and high moments lived. Fragments of truth supreme have lit his soul. So this is an entire development, evolution. That comes animal man, then he begins to get glimpses, flashes, the soul grows. A few reflections of the sun in water still. A few have dared the last supreme ascent. This is what Sri Aurobindo wants us to take. The leap across, the bridge across forever. A leap from the transient to the eternal, but in form. A leap from matter to spirit, but in form. That is a great bridge. from mind to supermind, ignorance to wisdom, call it whatever. And then what happens? And break through borders of blinding light above, and feel a breath around of mightier air, receive a vaster being's messages, and bathe in its immense intuitive ray. This vaster being message is not like people say guidance by God means if I have to apply for the stock market, God must tell me which one to apply. That's most likely the devil. And if you call God, He may give you a counsel where your market is going to crash. Because that's needed. And He smiled that's what I wanted. See that Socrates used to get this intuitive guidance. So, when he is condemned, when he is charged guilty, and he has to drink hemlock poison. So one of his disciples, Crito, he has paid, see everywhere this used to be there, silver coins, bribed everybody. He's a rich man's son. Socrates had quite a good, rich people's children, and all the parents said, this fellow has spoilt our youth. That's why he was charged. Because he's teaching them about freedom, about divinity, he is spoilt. So he is charged. So he bribes everybody, comes to Socrates and says, Master, come. The master refuses because he consults his inner guidance. Now this intuition tells him, don't go. Meaning thereby, drink the hemlock. Logical, illogical. But what is illogical to man is perfectly logical to the intuition. So then Socrates, he says, no. He says, I have prepared everything. Safe passage. He says, no. He says, any last wish I can do. He says, I owe a debt to the man so and so because I had taken a cock from him and have not paid him yet. Can you clear the debt? He says, of course, gladly. And that's the time poison has started working and is right at the end. So intuitive ray, guidance of God doesn't work the way human mind with calculation and preoccupation with instant success tries. In one of the aphorisms of Sri Aurobindo, half a dozen revolutions through which the world has advanced and most of them were failures. Somebody asked which revolution was a failure. I said one of the biggest examples was the French Revolution. But today even in Indian constitution we write freedom, equality, fraternity. In its own time, it was a failure. About Bolshevik revolution, Sri Aurobindo sowed. First sowing of the seed. What is that? Something you remember. The first stirrings, though it was born to fail. But these are the ways the divine starts his journey and eventually takes us to something far beyond we can even imagine. So that's what messages, receive a vast being's messages and bathe in its immense intuitive ray. And then comes a few lines we can read and then stop. On summit mind are radiant altitudes. Basically, mind is not all man's tireless climb can reach. Exposed to the luster of infinity, outskirts and dependencies of the house of truth, Swarlok of the Vedas, heavens of the ideal. What are the outskirts and dependencies? So being who live there, they, you'll see in that Indian mythology, they go to Narayana straight away, hotline. Any problem, they'll rush to him. Dependencies, look at the marvelous word. So if a person is so dependent on God, know that he lives in Swarlok. Only beings of that region have this kind of dependency. So outskirts and dependencies of the house of truth. Upraised estates of mind and measureless. There, man can visit, but there he cannot live. And Sri Aurobindo's whole effort is for us to live there. Not only live there, but bring that here and transmute this material house of clay, so that this earthly life can become life divine.
Wonderful. Namaste. Namaste all. So we have concluded Savitri is the message. And in the next 2 sessions, we will speak about uplifting lines in Savitri.
As the grand culmination of,
Yes.
like a final
Yes.
grand of what is the message that Savitri gives us. Okay, next 2 Thursdays, right?
Yes, very good.
Thank you. Namaste.